Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the Tuesday, November 12, 2019, work session and regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Councilman Chase.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, one nation, under God.
Remain standing.
May those assembled here today enjoy the many offerings of our township. May we abide by the rules we have established, those of trust, fellowship, and ethics, and may we place service above self in our daily endeavors. And may we always test ourselves and our efforts to be sure they are the truth, good for all concerned, of benefit to mankind, and provide peace and understanding. Amen.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois. Councilman Galtieri.
Here.
Mayor Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Onijaka. Councilman Prasad.
Here.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Here. Deputy Mayor Vassanella. Councilman Wright.
We are on to proclamations and commendations, and I see a lot of people here. Go up to the podium, and Mr. Grippo, perhaps you would want to come up and assist with this.
Okay. So I wanted to thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's cold outside, but the 4th of July, I promise you, will be hot. So whatever it is out there, we'll have the extreme. And we had great weather this year. Again, Bob Vornlacher every July 3rd says many, many prayers, and they are answered. But the last couple of years, we really lucked out. We're also very lucky to have such a great staff in town, led by Alice, William, and of course, Safi. And then the star of the show with me, anyway, is Wendy. Where'd you go? Here you are. Wendy White. She really is a great addition to Alice's team, and I don't know what we would do without her for this particular event and all the other events that she does. So tonight we're going to recognize our donors, and the donors help us with the entertainment, with some of the overhead of the 4th of July, which is really and take the pressure off of us. So, Mayor, I know there's a couple of gentlemen that really wanted to meet you. That's why I charged the dais before. So you're very popular now. So what am I going to tell you?
I actually remember a time when I was out there and you were up there and I charged the dais. It didn't go well.
It didn't go too well then. Anyway, I just want to read some of the donors that are significant. And these people every year donate to the 4th of July and many other things in Franklin Township. Anatole Hiller has been a great supporter with Briar Manor Developers, Green Hill Manor, and of course that's the, Somerset Run and all those places. Not Somerset Run. Which one is Anatole? He's I shouldn't say that. Micro Corporation. Frank Semser is just a great supporter of everything we do. The Palace at Somerset, Mark Hamill. These are major contributors, and they've been wonderful. Praise Presbyterian Church, headed up by Young Kim and their pastor, they donate a large amount every year for not only the 4th of July, but so many other things. House Foods, the American Corporation, Trap Rock Industry. Joe, you're here tonight. You want to come up, Joe, and we're going to get you this proclamation that the mayor will give you. Trap Rock is like a real hero in Franklin Township for years, for decades. And it might be a rock, but they have a heart of gold, I'll tell you. And Joe is the main guy. I hope your shoulder gets better. Give him a nice round of applause.
We're such a hero, and I wanted to come down.
You can stay here for a minute. SHI International has been very generous. Iberia Foods, Del Caso Excavating. And then Mr. Arvino is here from the architects, Arcari Arvino. We're going to come on up, sir. I know you wanted to meet the mayor, and he's anxious to meet you now. Thank you very much for your donation. Every year you're there for us. Ken and Renee Kaufman, and then, of course, my good friend Peter Straviandidis from Venus Jewelers. Peter, come on up, please. Peter is an amazing champion in Franklin Township, has always donated to everything we're doing, and he's just great. He's on my YMCA committee and working with the mayor and I to move that project forward. So these are three people of the many people who have made the 4th of July so successful. It brings the community together in a very special way. We do a lot of different things to bring Franklin together. The Franklin Day is a perfect example, the tree lighting, so many things. But the 4th of July, when we celebrate our independence, and I know the mayor and I have gotten choked up many years when those fireworks go off and they sing the national anthem, there's something that just rings liberty out for this town. Our diversity, we're so rich in it, and it brings everyone together. So I want to thank the council for its ongoing support to this. The Public Works Department, Bob Vornlock is the manager, extremely helpful, and it's just so great when the mayor brings the council all up on stage, and it's just a great non-political, non-monkey business time, and I know that this particular 4th of July will be very close to a national election. So we're going to keep it very spirited in Franklin Township for sure. So thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you and Wendy, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you, really appreciate it. Thank you. I just did. The ones that have donated. The others, that's. Without talking to me.
Together a bit there, guys. All right, thank you. Sorry.
We're going to give a speech.
All right, thank you so much, Bill. I do want to, before you leave, I'd like to publicly thank Mr. Bill Grippo for all of his support and help with the Independence Day event. So, as he's leaving, okay. Okay. I'd also like to thank the council, the mayor, Bob Warrenlocker, and everyone for your support for Franklin Day. It certainly was a massive event, but I had a massive amount of support. So thanks to everyone who supported me in that regard. I do have the pleasure of thanking additional sponsors as well for Franklin Day, many of whom are also here. So I'm going to ask all of the sponsors who are here for Franklin Day to come up so that as I read your name, we can make sure that you get your commendation. So please come on up very quickly, Juanita and Dorothy, and I think there's some people that are out there. But as they're making their way up, their commendations are on the table, and I'll make sure that they get them. Okay. All right, I'll clap you up. Okay. All right. Thank you. One person. Okay, so very quickly, I'd like to start by thanking our friends at the Somerset County Business Partnership. I'd also like to thank our bronze sponsors, which include Ms. Juanita Painson, who provided us with a number of sponsorship opportunities through the Franklin Township Chamber of Commerce, Business Catalyst Center, New Horizon Abstract, as well as the Morning Stars professional group. So thank you for that. Okay. I'd also like to thank the Little Gym, Kumon of Somerset, Assemblyman Danielson, the Marigold Hotel, Community Baptist Church of Somerset, Keller Williams Town Square, Oasis Senior Advisors, the Cornerstone Christian Church, and also Trap Rock Industries. I believe Joe was here, but he is no longer. Okay. As well as a Lightbridge Academy of Somerset, who are also going to be supporting our December 6th tree lighting event. So December 6th, just remember that date. Also, I'd like to thank Wawa, Investors Bank, Open Road Honda, Compo Secure, Apex Sport and Events, Unity Bank, Riverbend, as well as the Rutgers Community Christian Church. So thank you to our bronze sponsors. Our silver sponsors include Bright Horizons, Rutgers Community Christian Church, Regal Bank, Berkshire Hathaway, Church of St. Matthias. Again, Peter, Dr. Peter was here, of Venus Jewelers, we thank him. Resta Car Service Center, Financial Resources Federal Credit Union, St. Peter's Hospital, and the ShopRite of Somerset. Those were our silver sponsors. Our gold sponsors include the Robert Wood Johnson Hospitals of Somerset and New Brunswick, American Institute, Hearing Life, which I believe is here. No, Hearing Life, oh, no. Rutgers Health University Dental Associates of New Brunswick. Miracle Ear is here. Thank you so much, Miracle Ear. We appreciate you for your support. Hearing? Very nice, nicely done. Our platinum sponsor was the Rutgers Prep School, so we thank them for their support. And last but certainly not least are our diamond sponsors, L'Oreal and Pillar College. Thank them so much for their support. I'd also again like to thank the Franklin Day Planning Committee, as well as Parks and Recreation, Allison Bowe, as well as Ross Sherman and Safi Callan for creating a great blueprint to follow in terms of planning Franklin Day. So thank you for that. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Brian Fenner, who I believe attended the last council meeting. He donated his time and talents to creating a lovely Franklin Day video, which, if you don't mind, I'd like to play after the commendation photo. So thank you so very much for your support, and let's get that photo and play the video.
Welcome to the 6th Annual Franklin Day. The idea of Franklin Day is to bring the community together, and you are the community. The businesses, the people, you are community, and communities is what we are about.
Hello, I'm Terry Dubinsky from L'Oreal Manufacturing Facility right here in Somerset. We've been here since 1986, and we produce the L'Oreal lipstick, liquid makeup, and skincare Township's pillar is an accredited and affordable private Christian college with degrees at the undergraduate as well as graduate level. Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Scott. First, the most amazing part of my job is that I get to come to events like these. Come to townships where they are celebrating their community and their local businesses, their local people and their local teams. And I'm so blessed that you guys have me and welcome me with open arms, and I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you so much.
We got a Tomahawk helicopter coming in 20 minutes.
My name is Bob McQueen, Director of Information Technology. We're out Franklin Day to show our Connect with Us, all our social media options that you can connect and get information. We also are promoting cybersecurity.
Hi, we're from the Shade Tree Commission, and we're happy to help you with your tree issues in the township of Franklin.
Hi, Brian Regan, Executive Director at the Franklin Township Sewage Authority. We're here at this wonderful Franklin Day celebration today. We have our trucks in the parking lot. Bring the kids by. They'll love seeing the big better trucks and the cameras that go into the sewer main. Hello, Franklin.
So sometimes we'll go to a house and there might be a dryer fire or a car might be on fire. So we're able to help put that fire out before the fire department gets there. So we're all certified to do these things.
This is one of the greatest days. I work here. This is my 22nd year working in Franklin, and I work another 22 years. And I love Franklin, man. I love it. Great place. It really is.
Thank you so much, and I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Wendy White, Special Events Coordinator for Franklin Township. Have a lovely day.
A lovely day. Okay, we're on now to public discussion. Do we have a motion to open for public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We're open to public discussion. Anyone wishing to speak may come to the mic, state their name and address. They'll have 5 minutes to address the council. No yielding of time. One bite at the apple.
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. Two things I want to just ask general questions for before I make a statement. One is I'd like to thank the Parks and Rec Department again for another community event that they did on with us, which is trunk or treat that we actually did with Hamilton Street and the Parks and Rec Department. I think estimated total probably about maybe attendance about 400 people. 400 people actually in attendance of that event. It was a great event for all the kids, the community people, actually around the holiday time frame, because I think maybe actually on Halloween itself it was a little cold and the weather was a little bad. So we got a chance to actually do something pleasant for the kids prior to that. And the families really appreciated that. The second thing is this one is actually addressed to Mr. Vornlocker. Mr. Vornlocker, could you state for me what the actual procurement process is for actually paying vendors and actually going through that whole process at all? And then the second thing is that usually what's the designated time that actually is gone for actually processing payments and everything else with vendors in the community at all?
So the document is called the Local Public Contracts Law, and I suggested if you want to read it, you can
I read
look
it
up.
already.
Well, there you go. Then
I read
that's
it.
what the procurement process is in the Township of Franklin.
So based on the statements that you stated, is that there's no general time frame for when you process or secure procurement, does it? Because it doesn't state nothing in the document. That's the reason why I'm asking you directly.
No, there's many laws that govern the procurement process, and if we had several hours, I could give you a tutorial on it, but I don't have several hours
No,
here.
I mean it's a simple process. So I'm just
No, it's not a simple process. It's actually a complex process that requires people to become qualified purchasing agents to conduct it, and there are things like prompt payment laws in the state of New Jersey and other things that it is actually quite
I'm
a
aware
lengthy
because I just came
discussion.
from the county, so I'm just make sure that we're stating the
Is
same
there a
thing, so.
specific issue that you?
So, I mean, Mr. Vornlocker, Mr. Vornlocker and myself can discuss it offline. It's not a big
Okay.
deal. So let's say,
I don't really feel there's a need to discuss it offline.
I know.
but I will talk to you about it right now.
Okay.
You are talking about vendors that did not submit all of the necessary paperwork
No,
for
no.
the trunk or treat. Well, yeah, you are, because I have the emails to show me exactly what you're
I'm
talking
not talking about that specifically, but I'm
No,
talking
that's what
about
you're talking about, and
I'm talking
when
about
you
general
submit the proper
procedures.
paperwork.
I'm talking about
Mr. Vornlocker, give him-
talking about general procedures on actually processing documents.
No, that's
it.
the general procedures. The general procedures are that paperwork needs to be submitted by every vendor before payment can be made to them.
Is that
And
what the
once that paperwork is submitted, then a purchase order is processed through the requisition and purchase order process. And once that's done, the payment is put on the township's warrant list
Warrant
for
list,
council to approve it. And once the warrant list is approved, those checks are issued generally on the Wednesday or Thursday following the council meeting.
Okay, and then for stated records, just make sure that we're going through a process, right? This is the process he's actually stating. I'm just telling you from a statements that has been done for not just things that I've seen, but also that has happened to other people. That process needs to be evaluated. It actually needs to be evaluated and it actually needs to be looked at as far as how it's been handled in this specific community at all. And the reason why I'm saying this, and you can comment after I finish, is that the reason why this is done is because as you have an expanding base that is here, right? Not just myself, not just anybody else that is here. Anybody that wants to be a qualified person, actually do business with Franklin Township, needs to be treated fairly. And again, what is being done behind scenes is not being treated fairly to a lot of people. I'm using myself as an example because it's so fact there's nobody else is going to say anything to you guys. The problem is that the procurement process here and the diversity process here, when you actually qualify vendors, is not fair. Just plain and simple.
Please, just,
Okay, so
go ahead, Mr.
do you have, well, thank you, Mr. Vornlocker. Do you have specific allegations? Do you have specific things that happen?
Mr. Vornlocker and me will talk about that offline. I'm not.
No, I will
no,
talk
no.
to them right now. I'm
Wait,
perfectly
if you have specific things, I actually think you should, if you think it's illegal, I think you should go to the prosecutor. If you
agree.
think it's not illegal, but procedurally wrong, just a procedural thing, I mean, write it up and submit it to me, and what I'll do is I'll give it to him, because to be honest, I don't know enough of the correct procedures to be done, and he is a man I trust completely, and he will, if you point out something, and don't worry about me taking up your time, I'm not going to let this thing run out on you. If, these are serious allegations, and if it's just a procedural thing, then we need to fix the procedure. If it's a criminal thing, then I think it should go to the prosecutor.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
You want me to say something? Or
You can
want
say it
to-
after I finish. You guys say it after I finish. So the
Stop the
process,
clock.
and I just want to make sure we're clear about this. The process on how you approve, not just, because this is just one example. I'm talking about disparity study to actually qualify vendors in this town. Making sure that the disparity study is done with actually how we qualify and make things fair in this town. Because again, there's a disparity study that's done. If you want, we can talk about this offline.
No, we don't have to. There's no such thing under the local public contracts law.
It's not local, it's state. It's state. State and
The
federal.
local public contracts law is the state law,
It's
Mr.
not.
Nye.
It's not. So, so if you want to go back and forth, and you want to compare the notes, we can go back and compare the notes. I'm telling you, it's not. So it's up to you guys whether or not you want to make this stand, because this is what you're making a stand on.
I'm taking what you're saying very seriously. You've made allegations that are serious allegations. I think you should commit them to writing so that those can be looked at. And there are some confusing things in the language, such as the local finance board. That's a state board. And I don't know if that even applies here. But people get caught up in those. I was already on council, or maybe I was on the ethics board when I heard about the local finance board. I looked around for the office. It's not here, it's in Trenton. The local finance board is a state thing. So there are certain things that say local that are state facilities. But if you have specific allegations of impropriety, if you think them criminal, you should go to the prosecutor. If you think them procedural, then submit them to me, and I'm just, in front of the world, I'm going to give it to him, because he's the one that will understand what is right and what is wrong. I would, if you're thinking that the manager did something wrong, then I would submit it to him. If you think it's someone who works for the manager did something wrong, then I would submit it to the manager. In actuality, I'm going to submit it to both of them, unless it's an allegation specifically about Mr. Vornlocker. Then I would not submit it to him. But I take what you say seriously. If anyone has an allegation about anything, I take it seriously. But there's no way we're going to adjudicate it here, and I don't think you're trying to.
No, I'm not trying to adjudicate here. I'm making a point of what I think is fair and what I don't think is fair, based on the legal standpoints and the writings that we actually have for the town. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing more, none less.
So I'd like to jump in here. Since I sit on the marketing committee of the Hamilton Street Advisory Board, and we started the trunk or treat way back when, there are certain vendors out there that are small vendors that provide services like the fun bus, like the DJ, like the mobile bus, that submit their invoices to the township. And I think because they're small vendors, the expectation is that when they provide their service on the day of the event, that they will have been paid, that we come there with a check for them to reimburse them for their services. I think there's been some precariousness about the process, the back and forth on submitting the invoice and then having to get the purchase order signed, then bringing it back to the township, then having the township council approve it on the warrants list, and then the checks being cut, and the timeline it takes for all that to happen. So from an outside perspective, from a vendor perspective, they don't understand our procurement process. And, if there was some kind of way where we could streamline it and make it a little bit easier. And one of the things that I recommended for next year, so we don't have this back and forth, because, people need to get paid, and they need to get paid in a timely manner, that we have maybe our special projects manager handhold the process to move the people's paperwork through the process so it doesn't get lost in the finance department, doesn't get lost in maybe somebody here should get the purchase order back to the vendor and then get the vendor's purchase order back to the township. There's a lot of back and forth. I don't think he's saying that there's legally that we've done something illegal. I just think what I've seen and what I've observed is that we got to do a better job of managing the businesses that want to do business with us.
And I have to take exception, Councilwoman, I do, because I'm fully familiar with the circumstances here. And the issue here is that we have an obligation under the law to follow a procedure, and that procedure is followed. And that procedure requires things like purchase orders to be signed and invoices to be submitted.
I'm not disputing that at all.
All of those things need to be done, and in this particular circumstance, I am aware of the fact that those things were not done. And we cannot pay a bill, and we cannot have a check for presentation prior to the purchase order being authorized by this body. That's the law. So I understand that people want to be paid, and we have an obligation to pay under the state law in a timely manner. And that law says that once all of the necessary paperwork is filed, and in some of these cases, the necessary paperwork we're talking about is their W-9, their tax forms. They need to file that with the Township of Franklin to be a qualified vendor. And if they don't file that, then we can't process the purchase order. And that's not something that we have any control. That's not our process that's flawed. That's just us following the state law. I can't
I'm not
fix
disputing
that.
any of that. I'm not disputing that we're not following the process in the state law. What I'm saying is maybe there's something that we can do to facilitate some of that, to make sure that people know what the requirements are. I'm done. I don't have anything else to say about it. Okay. So one of the things I did offer for next year, so we don't go through this, as part of the people on the committee, if we do trunk or treat again, I offered to kind of handhold that process with the vendors so that they don't have to go through some of the red tape because they don't understand it. That's it.
Okay. Did you have a last closing remark?
No, I mean, I think that's it, because if we're going to my statement is that, closing statement is that if we're saying we have a process and we've been upholding it, again, if the documentation that we have can prove that it's followed, then I'm okay with that. Okay. But if it cannot, and there's some accountability that needs to be held, I assure that you guys need to hold the people accountable. That's it.
Maybe it's just a one-page summary with instructions that we need to hand out to people that says, here's the process you need to follow, here are the instructions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guy. By the way, you were up there about 10 minutes, so next time I let someone run a couple of minutes over, don't say I'm treating you unfairly. Just as my summary of all that, there's a lot of things we do in government that somewhat seem a little crazy, overly bureaucratic, et cetera, and those were developed over centuries, actually, of methods to make sure that government isn't stealing from people. And it sometimes becomes, well, to someone who doesn't understand it, very burdensome, very tiresome, and costs more. You know, Ken Daly, the manager, 2 managers ago, used to say, you know, industry could buy a paperclip for 2 cents. It costs government 5 cents because of the paperwork they have to do involved with it, just to make sure no one's stealing or misusing money. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? Ms. Powell.
Linda Powell, 22 Buffett Drive. Good evening. I want to congratulate the mayor and the 2 councilwomen at large in their big election and our soon-to-be councilman at large. And I would say I would miss Councilman Prasad, only I know I'm still going to see him. He's still going to be working along with us fighting the Northeast Supply Enhancement Project and involved in many other community activities. So I may not see you up there, but I'll see you down here. I also wanted to update people as part of our role as the steering committee on the task force. As you probably know, I don't know if people out there know, but I know you guys know, that the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection was supposed to give their decision on the four outstanding applications by William Transco on Nessie, the Northeast Supply Enhancement Project, on October 25th. And instead, William Transco withdrew 3 of those applications. And the fourth application, which is on the flood hazard area, which does impact us, that they're supposed to decide on that on November 28th, which I believe is right around Thanksgiving. Unless, of course, Williams Transco at the last minute pulls out that application as well. So I think I lost track. I know it's 3.5 years, but I think we're at round 4. We're still fighting this project. That area already is flooding a lot when it rains. People have complained about their backyards flooding and other things flooding. And we know that the pollution involved with such a project would be very hazardous to health, impacting things like childhood asthma and leukemia, all types of lung diseases, cancers, heart disease, developmental delays, kidney failure, strokes, and premature deaths. So we're still trying to prevent this from coming to our town, as well as New York and New Jersey coalition trying to prevent that pipeline going under the bay and dredging up all those toxins that had settled under the bay over the decades. And Governor Cuomo came out with a statement today against National Grid, which is the company that has put out a lot of false propaganda, telling people that they're going to freeze and cutting off people's gas supplies. And New York has already, the New York part of our coalition has already made a press release, and they're going up to Albany. And we're all working together to try to save our future. So there will be, we had the petition that we're asking people to sign was taken down from our website, but it will be back up. So you can go back and sign that online petition. And thank the council for your continued support throughout the years, and keep fighting with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I've never been to one of your meetings before. I'm Dorothy Fry with Miracle Ear, and I opened my office in Somerset April 27th. We had our grand opening. So I got to participate at the Senior Center and give a talk on hearing loss, and I got to participate in the Senior Expo, and then a great opportunity for Franklin Day, which I appreciate. Wendy reached out to me. I didn't know anything about it, and she's done a fabulous job. I just want to say I am excited to be here in your community. So far, my experience has been very, very good. I'm excited about what's going on and the opportunities that we have to partner with you and help and make this a good place. So thanks for having me here in your township and approving all my permits and everything, and I'm glad to be part of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one else come forward, I make a motion we close public session.
Second.
Moved in, seconded, all in favor of closing public session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public session is closed. Council comments. Mr. Chase.
We haven't had any committee meetings lately. I guess there just hasn't been enough business to bother having the various meetings. I think we're finishing up the year of repaving our streets, and some will be done in the spring. And in fact, we'll make some later decisions on some additional streets based on the fact that Jake's Lane came in over bid, so we're not doing Jake's Lane this year, which gives us some money to spend on some other streets. One thing I might mention that I was pleased to attend last Sunday night was the first annual Lantern Walk at the at the Kingston Green, which is next to Yinghua International School, which is the old Kingston School. but they and German school arranged to have this lantern walk following the new trail which our Public Works Department has built around the perimeter of the green, and which is much appreciated by the citizens there. So this was a very nice event, and then gathering afterwards for cider and cookies. So, but I would commemorate it. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Councilman Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Foundation, Admin, and Land Use had no meeting. HRC did have a meeting where they focused on coordinating the 2020 census. And we had an election. My congratulations to all the winners. And to the losers, thank you for running. That's how we have a democracy. Stay involved, and let's keep voting. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
My turn already? I want to thank Linda and her team for doing all the work they are doing to put up the good fight against the pipeline that's coming here. 3.5 years is a long time to do what you've been doing. And we need more people out in the community like yourself that stay engaged and fight the good fight on behalf of all of us. And keep coming to the council meetings and keep doing what you're doing, because it's been very, very, extremely effective. Thank you for all your support and your work in the community. And I also wanted to say I got an opportunity last Friday to go over to the youth center, do a tour, a walkthrough with the construction company and the engineers and the project managers, and they gave me a really nice walkthrough of what's going on over there, what's planned to be happening, and they've already poured the concrete footing for the foundation, and they're actually putting up some walls. They've come into a few roadblocks, but they don't seem to think that there's going to be a problem. They showed me a tank that had been underneath the foundation for years, but there wasn't any oil showing through there, so they're going to have that inspected. So far they've told me they can work around that. Everything seems to be okay. They're clearing out the parking lot, and I was really, really impressed, Mr. Von Locker, with those big round pipes that are going to go underneath the parking lot to make sure that the storm water drains off. Yeah, and they also told me that they've gotten a lot of good feedback from the residents, the neighbors that live there. The construction company has been very cognizant of the fact that there are people that live there, and they've gotten nothing but good feedback. And it was interesting because the lead of the construction, he said to me, you have a great architectural design here. And he said it's amazing that facility can fit in that space, because it's going to be a great edifice of a youth center. And also, at some point, we need to start talking about what we're going to call the youth center. We keep calling it a youth center, but we have to come up with a name for the youth center. So I'm going to start working with Safi, our special projects manager, so we can get the youth involved in what we should. If we have a contest of something we have to do to come up with the right name for the facility. So I continue to get feedback from the community. I don't care where I'm at. People are watching, and they're waiting, and they're excited about, and they're engaged about what's going to happen in Franklin Township in September 2020 at the Youth Center. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I suggest Kramer's Place, but that may not win. Councilman Onyejaka.
Yeah, Mayor. First of all, I want to use this privilege to congratulate all our council and the mayor who ran a very good race this time. They all won, so that's a good thing to all of us. Another thing, I had the privilege to attend the town hall meeting that was scheduled on the 28th at the Franklin Park concerning Consolata. It was very, very explanatory, very helpful. Now we got the information, and everybody that attended, that had the privilege to attend the town hall, some of them I met, they said the same thing, that now they've understood what is going on in the council. That thing was very, very helpful to all of us. And at the same time, we still, now I know the hall, part of the hall has been accomplished, has been finished, and we still expect the other part of it to be done. So we are very happy, and we still hope that by next year, but at least by June, the whole place will be completed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Will Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, a day late, but happy Veterans Day to all our veterans, and thank you for your service to the country. I know several classmates of mine who have served from high school, so sacrifice that they gave serving generations before us. So, as far as meetings, Sewage Authority was last week. Nothing, no significant, just project updates that came out of that. Fire prevention and admin are this Thursday, tentatively, if possibly. I know fire prevention is at least. Couple notes. It's leaf season, so I'm sure the manager will give any updates on leaf pickup, but if he was. Exactly. But a friendly reminder, if you have a storm drain in front of your house, please try to clear it, especially if we have rainstorms or hopefully no snowstorms, but if that happens, it just backs up the street and makes it more difficult for everybody to drive through. So if you have a storm drain in front of your house, please try to clean that up. And a couple questions online. So one, street signs. If a street sign is illegible or unreadable, please reach out to us. I guess DPW would be the best place to reach out to, correct? Or traffic safety?
Actually, so I would say that the best way to report it is via the website. And
Okay.
report it via the you don't have to do the portal. The same form for potholes is also for reporting signs and those types of activities.
Okay. So if you have signs that you feel are unreadable, please reach out and submit through the way the manager suggested. And there was a question that was raised about Willow, why it wasn't repaved. It's settling right now. That's part of it. The other part is we are allowing residents who are next to where the pipe, we offered the opportunity that if where the pipe was laid and your house is directly next to it, that you can possibly connect into it. So in the spring, Willow will be repaved, as well as probably 9th Street outstanding. But anything that was part of the water project will be taken care of in the spring. It just needs to go through the winter, so the surface that's there right now is there. But part of the point of this, stating all this stuff is, or all this information is, if you have a question, no matter how small you think it is, feel free to reach out to us. I answer emails. I try to do it nightly, if not more frequently throughout the day. It depends on my workload. I will be honest, I am horrible with voicemail, but email, feel free to send me a note and I will respond to you as soon as possible, or pass it along to the right probably to the township manager to get an answer, but we'll respond in some form. So if you have a question, feel free to reach out to us as the elected officials. We will get you the proper information and can start working on a solution. Example is the street signs. We may not have known about the street sign. Now we do, and we can go resolve it. So I encourage you to reach out to us for information, and we'll help support, make sure to resolve what we can. With that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pruitt.
Thank you. So as far as council committees, the YSC Alliance Against Drug Abuse met, Fire Chiefs Association met, Public Safety was earlier this evening. But as far as events, I want to say a thank you to the seniors at Parkside. They invited me to have coffee with them. I actually met a 97-year-old man named Mr. Leroy, told me about his past in the military, and it was really, really great to talk to the older residents and spend time with them. I also attended the Hamilton Street Trunk or Treat. It was a great event, and the weather was really perfect for it. I was unable to participate in the dance contest, which is probably for the best because I would have won. I participated in the joint BOE meeting, as Councilman Onujaka mentioned. I also wanted to mention that I was able to attend the Veterans Day event yesterday. Thank you, Bob LaCourte, for organizing that. Thank you for the Canal Walk Seniors Veterans Club coming out. Junior ROTC and PJ Parker for singing for us. It was a really nice event. A nice way to say thank you to the veterans, not only in our community, but across the country for their service. On Friday, I went on a PIM tour, so I went to a candy factory and walked out with an entire bag of candy and a lot of candy stuffed into my pockets. And it was brought up by a couple colleagues. I wanted to just say, for everyone that ran on November 5th, it's a lot to put yourself out there. So regardless of, whether or not you were successful, thank you for participating in your democracy and taking that opportunity to, run and do what you can. So, and lastly, shameless self-promotion. My birthday was earlier this month. I am still accepting gifts of food and drink for the rest of the month. Thank you.
So you're legal to drink now?
Yeah,
Cool.
I turned 22. Like, just kidding, but yeah. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We have no deputy mayor tonight, and no Carl Wright, so we'll be an hour shorter. I got a key to Councilman, was this the key to a city or to the whole country of?
It was to the country.
It was to the country.
The whole, yes.
That's why it's such a big key.
That's right. That's why it's such a big gate.
Of Toga, I was made a king of Womeno. Womeno.
That's Togo.
In Togo.
Togo. Did I say Toga?
You did.
So
Togo
it was
would
not
be
an article of clothing,
the
it was a
fraternity.
country. Togo, it says that right here. But in all honesty, this is, it was quite humbling and meant a lot to me. They are a sister city and quite nice. And then they gave the key to Mr. Vornlocker.
They did.
So we can go there together and get in.
We have been invited next August, by the way.
Oh, okay. Let's see, the PIM factory, I was there. Actually, the community center, that's a very important thing for people to get involved with. There's a basic preset design by the footprint of the building that's already there and the use of the large room that we did not want to change. But the community is given the opportunity to submit how they want the center used, and that will be taken in consideration in the remainder of the design. Very exciting. As to the wedding, wow. As to the election, I'm not, well, it's a wedding to the community. Yeah, give it up.
You try.
I try. As to the election, thank you all for your votes. Maybe people notice that we won by a large margin. I am well aware that that has to do with the political demographics of the town. It does not go to my head. We have a lot of work to do. And I learned a lot by knocking on well over 3,000 doors. I heard what people liked, what they didn't like, and it gives me a lot of food for thought for what we can do. I think we are running the town very well. I think we're making great strides, but there are still big issues out there, important issues that we need to solve. And I'm the kind of person that focuses more on the problems than on the successes. I feel good about the successes, but I was more interested when people told me about the problems. And we will be working hard to solve those problems. Next week, we are all off to the League of Municipalities, which is a place to meet a lot of vendors out there, learn about new technology out there, go to a lot of classes given by kind of our fellow people around the state as to their successes, and learn a lot to help govern. And in the evenings, we can network with each other and return home very tired. I think that is all I have.
That was the perfect sound.
It was, wasn't it?
It was.
You were cut off.
It was. Now you're officially the cartoon.
Mr. Vornlacher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first, I received a text message from Councilman Wright. He apologized. He is going to make every attempt to be here. He said that he will obviously at this point be late. He is stuck on a train coming in from the city, and it's beyond his control. So hopefully he'll be here before the end. Some things to report on. I'll further some things that Councilman Galtieri discussed. One, the fall leaf cleanup. So as I expressed at the last council meeting, the town has been divided up into two zones, Zone 1 and Zone 2. I won't repeat the zones. What I'd encourage everyone is if you want to know about your leaf pickup, go to the website, go to the Public Works page, and it's detailed. The map is there. It tells you what zone you're in. This happens to be Zone 1's week for pickup. It started today because of the holiday yesterday, and it will continue tomorrow for those areas of Zone 1 that were not picked up. Zone 2 will begin on Monday the 18th, and then there's one more following in Zone 1 November 25th and Zone 2 December 2nd. This seems to be a more efficient way of picking up the bags so far. We're able to get through one zone in generally 1.5 days labor versus what we were trying to do in previous years and do the entire town, and sometimes we weren't getting done in the entire week. So it definitely seems to be working out well. If you don't have internet access, then I don't know how you're watching us on TV, but you could be watching us, I guess, on the cable TV, and you could contact the Public Works Department if you have any questions about your leaf pickup. So that's number one. Number two, Councilman Galtieri talked about signs. I would just like to give a quick tutorial on the way to report deficiencies that you note in your neighborhood or along your way through the town, and what you should do with them. The first thing I would say is go to our website, and on the home page, right in the middle, it says report a street issue. If you click on that, it brings you to a form that you can complete for these types of things, and we'll just go quickly through them. Potholes, tall grass, graffiti, roadway debris or litter, deer carcasses, traffic light issues, street light issues, sign problems, maintenance of road problems, guardrail damage, or potholes. Any of those things can be reported. However, there is a list of those streets that are not under our jurisdiction, along with links to those government entities to report the same type of activities. If you're reporting something on a state highway, Route 27, which is comprised of Route 27, also French Street, the Lincoln Highway, Somerset Street, and 287, there is a link to the State Department of Transportation. If you're reporting something on a county road, and I won't repeat all of them, but all of the county roads are listed there by number and by name. If you're reporting something on, say, Hamilton Street, it's much more efficient to click on the link for the Somerset County Road Department. They have a similar type form, and reporting it directly to them. If it's one of our roads or one of our problems, by completing this form, it generates a work order in the Public Works Department so that it can be taken care of. And I've been told by many members of the public that when they report things this way, oftentimes within a day or two, the matter is remedied. And that's the truth. It generates a work order. Work orders can't be closed until the problem is resolved. So I encourage people to use this method, and we appreciate it when you find those things that you report us. We don't want a pothole. We don't want a sign that's damaged. We want those things to be repaired, and the eyes of the public are really the best way to get those things reported, because there's like 70,000 of you that live in this town, and there's only 100 or so of us. So you outnumber us greatly, and you see a lot more than oftentimes we do. I report things using the same form because it's the quickest way for me to report things to Public Works when I see things on my way in and out of work. So the public should do so as well. And I think that I'm glad that the councilman brought it up tonight, because it's very important for you to do that for us, and that's the best way for us to get things fixed. The last thing I have to talk about is something that both Councilman Onajaka and the mayor brought up, and that's the former Consulate Mission campus and the community center there. Anyone who has thoughts on programmatic things for the community center, as we said, there's several rooms that are basically blank slates, and the final design of those rooms will take into account all of the community input. In the spotlight and in the news are the links to the presentation, the layout of the building, and the submission form for you to submit via the website. You can also print it out and submit it to the clerk's office. We're going to gather all of them up at the end of December. We're going to have the architects review all of those submissions that have been made, so that we can begin the final design of those rooms to best suit the community's needs. So I encourage anyone who has an interest in that to go on the website and fill out those forms and review what's proposed and what's been done so far. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Talking of signs made me think of one thing that's a little bit political, but we're now under township cleanup. People who see certainly any of the Democratic-related signs, political signs that are still up, I think we've gotten all of the ones for my party. Please let me know if they're not. There's the phone number right there, and if they're not of our party, I'll pass it on to the people as best I can who are responsible for it.
So, Mr. Mayor, the public can also use that same form, because those forms, so I have the luxury of being a recipient of every single one of those forms that's submitted from the website. So if a member of the public reported those types of signs via that, I would get that, and I could then pass it on to the proper people as well.
Good, yeah, because I don't want the town to have to pay to pick them up.
No, I won't have our staff at this point. The time limit is not up for removal, so you're still within compliance with the ordinance, so I will notify the proper political party representatives to have their signs removed if they're reported.
Excellent. Well, why don't you keep going, because we're on to best practices.
Keep going.
Inventory.
So as council is aware, annually the state of New Jersey requires the best practices inventory to be completed by the municipality. You should all have copies of the best practices inventory in your folders. This year had a little bit of a different appearance to it. It had a number of questions that were scored, as well as a number of non-scoring questions. The minimum score to maintain our state aid was a 30, and our score was 44. So clearly we were well beyond the minimum score. If there are any questions on the best practices, certainly you can ask me now or you can ask me later. I think that there are no surprises there on the best practices inventory, and the answers are just the work product of myself, the finance department, and this year planning and zoning and economic development, because there were some questions specifically related to those functions of the municipal government.
Okay. And now we're on to the proposed 2020 Township Council meeting schedule. Madam Clerk. I don't have to do anything this.
Okay, so the proposed 2020 council meeting this year, for the first year, I think, since I've been here, we don't have any meetings that fall on a different day. They're all the second and fourth Tuesdays. None of the holidays mess up the schedule. Your decision is what.
I'm sure those who planned Yom Kippur 5,000 years ago will be glad to hear that.
Yes. What I need is direction as to when reorg is, whether it's going to be January 1st or a different day.
So, stepping out of tradition a little bit here, Mr. Ambasarian, if you could come to the mic, I think you should be, you don't get a vote, I guess, but you get to have say in this since you will be involved. And I will, however you tell me to vote, I will vote that way. But I guess what you're talking about is the reorg date.
Is the reorg date, whether it's January 1st or a different date that you so choose, like.
We have to be before
Has
the
to be by
7th?
January 7th.
By and including January 7th.
Yes.
Which means it, in theory, could be your first scheduled council meeting.
So I recall a tradition of, and I'm absolutely ready to be corrected if I'm wrong, those who are newly getting on council kind of having a bit of say in this, or at least leaning towards them, though if others feel differently, that's fine. So I would think Ms. Pruitt and Ambasarian I would be interested in hearing what they have to say. Others may want to say something else, but Pruitt?
And getting some background from the township manager about this process. I don't think I would actually be physically in the first, but as far as trying to get it done as expeditiously as possible, I am open to the 2nd or the 3rd.
The 2nd?
No, January 1st is a Wednesday.
January 1st is a Wednesday, correct? So
we could have it on the first Tuesday, which is January 7th.
we could.
Oh, well then.
No, you cannot.
Oh, okay.
Why?
But let's hear from Ron.
Why not?
We have a sewerage.
Sewer authority meeting.
Oh, so
So I
Monday?
repeat, why not?
I would say that council meeting trumps sewage authority
Yeah.
meeting on just about every scale.
I was
Well-
hoping that
Or reschedule the sewage authority meeting. You can change that.
would we have both meetings on both the 7th and the 14th?
So this is where Anne Marie and I have had some discussion. If in fact you had the reorganization meeting on the 1st, which I understand why the issue here with having it on the 1st, based on the person to my left.
I'm sorry.
No, we had, then we would have both council meetings the 2nd and 4th Tuesday, being the 14th and the 28th. If the meeting were held on the 7th, you could certainly adjust the council meeting schedule so that there was only 2 council meetings in the month and not have the first meeting on the 14th, but have the second meeting on the 28th.
That's a long reorg.
May I be out of
No, I agree.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes. Councilman.
I will be out of the country.
When?
I'm coming back on the 4th of January.
Okay. Mr. Councilman-elect.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, the council. I am available any day, actually, from the 1st onwards, but in considering Ms. Pruitt not being available, I would be open to the 2nd or the 3rd or the 7th. Really, it wouldn't matter. We would probably want to have as many members as possible when we meet. I think that would be a good thing.
So
Not sure, Kim.
Could we
Kimberly?
do it on the 6th, which is a Monday? That way you guys won't miss your sewage authority meeting.
Yes.
Now, I'm asking out of concern for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, and particularly because there's a case that we'll be having the third meeting on it, and some of the public may be interested in attending, so I hope we can have a meeting in January.
So your historic meeting would be on the 6th?
Normally it's the first Tuesday of the month. So if you have a council meeting on the first Tuesday of the month, then the Historic Commission can't meet.
We wouldn't.
Monday.
If we have it on the 6th, then we
If
won't.
we have it
on
on the 6th, that's
You'll be
fine.
okay. So it
Well, it's
sounds like
not
3
fine for the
people.
Environmental Commission,
in
but
on
I'm a
the
little
6th,
less
yeah.
worried for them.
Let's do the 6th. That way.
That I
it's a
think works for
compromise everybody.
everyone around.
Yeah.
The 6th, everyone is back,
Yeah, let's do
and
that.
everyone is, and it's prior to the council meeting on the 14th. It's within the 7-day period. I think you hit all points if you do it on the 6th.
Councilwoman Pruitt, you're good with that?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
I'll have
I'm
to
all
get
good with
the
that. Someone turn off the
Environmental
projector.
Commission to reschedule, but I think that's easier. And I think we could go to the 13th for that. They don't have a second meeting because it usually coincides with Martin Luther King Day.
Everyone's back.
That work for the staff?
Works for me.
Works for me. And we're the only
And
township.
Councilman,
Yeah.
Prefer to work New Year's Day.
so,
He gets double time and a half that day.
I'm just saying.
so,
He's working on the assumption that he'll be appointed.
yeah, excuse me. Just a little legal point, at midnight on the 1st, the first midnight of the 1st, does he automatically become a councilman and have those powers, or?
So I'll give you the, I get asked this question a lot. The answer is that if something should happen, that we required the council to have an emergency meeting because, and I can't think of what it was, but let's say we really needed to have one. The first thing we would do is, Anne Marie and I would just swear everybody in. So
Right.
the answer is that, you, and by the way, you have to take the oath of office. You can go in and sign it in the clerk's office. So
That's right.
what happens here is ceremonial.
I'll meet you here at noon on the 1st.
I've had, by the way, I've had mayors and strong mayor forms of government take their oath of office at midnight at their New Year's. I mean, it's not completely unusual, but
No.
like I said, if since you only acted a council meeting, if something happened and we had to call a meeting, the clerk would call a meeting and then we would swear everybody in immediately.
And then a little silly thing such as salary is still based on the 1st.
They get docked a week.
So Mayor, are you concerned that you won't be the mayor till the 6th?
And I won't have to listen to him, Councilwoman.
Wait, that assumes you do now. And would someone turn off that projector? We're wasting electricity in the bulb. Yes. All right, so I think we're pretty centered on the 6th. We know because we need a time. 7 at night?
Well, unless you are all taking the day off from your day jobs.
I think we should declare it a national holiday. Yes, 7 at night. Okay, so do we have a motion to have,
No, we do this as a resolution at the next meeting. This was just to set the agenda.
okay. Should we also, I think it should be a reorg meeting only, and the 14th
Yes,
should be a regular meeting.
yes.
Because otherwise, that meeting will be interminable.
That's what you think. I don't think so. I think we should have a council
want
meeting and a reorg meeting, because we really only have one new person being sworn in. It's
No,
not like,
all of us will be
I
sworn
know,
in.
but are you gonna have a big ceremony?
Oh, my God.
Oh,
I'm a king.
And can I suggest that that might be a reason to start the meeting? If you're gonna do swearing-ins and stuff, you could start it at 6.
Start at 6.
Start at 6, do all of the swearing-ins, and then
And the other,
By 7 o'clock.
and to Councilwoman Francois's point, the first meeting of the month generally has a warrant list and doesn't have a whole lot of other things.
And we do the appointments by consent agenda.
So no to the starting at 6. That will be my first day back from an extended vacation. I hope I can get here at 7.
So you weren't going to be here on the 1st either.
Oh, I'm available on the 1st, but I'm not.
At work, you're coming back from okay. I
That's my
understand.
first day
Right,
at
no, I
work.
understand.
But, Mr. Mayor, you run these meetings very efficiently. I think we'll be okay. I think we can start at 7.
And I open the meeting anyway that day.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, unless we're having cake and ice cream and balloons and cookies and dinner and a whole bunch of stuff, we should be okay.
I don't know about dinner, but, so I disagree, so, how, that meeting can be pretty long, the reorg meeting. And do you have, at this point, do you have any idea what the business of the?
All the contracts for all your appointments will be on it. And there's about 7 resolutions that are usually on reorg, but that's all done by consent agenda. You have the appointments all basically done in 3 or 4 resolutions,
But
so.
I'm talking about the first regular meeting.
Yeah, the first regular meeting, I don't have anything for it at this
won't have any
point.
ordinances introduced or any ordinance.
No.
Second reading.
Okay.
There'll definitely
No,
be, they're right.
there'll be no
I mean, in
ordinances.
theory, there could be an introduction, but there won't be
Won't be
any
any
second
second
readings.
readings.
So, and
There won't be any discussion items.
Okay. All right. No proclamations.
No. Not at the first one.
No proclamations.
So that means no meeting on the 14th.
That's correct.
I guess that's our aim, and I mean, unless in December, by the first December meeting, you're realizing it's gonna be you would like to advise us otherwise, which I doubt you would know that soon in advance. Right now, we're not planning for a meeting on the 14th.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's right, we don't have to vote. Do you have any more input to this?
No, I look forward to joining you at the council and begin serving the people of Franklin Township. Eager.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Congrats again.
Thank you, Councilman.
My God, I don't know where we are. Oh, approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes for approval by the Township Council. The work session, regular meeting of October 10th, 2019, at 7 PM. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes, changes, corrections? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
It's time to pay the bills at an amount of $11,936,934.41 on November 12th, 2019, is presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion?
Motion for payment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anyone want to pull anything, question anything? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yep.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
You only get to vote once. Public hearing and adoption, so that passes. Public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. Ordinance 4305-19, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of a conservation easement from Hotel Somerset LLC, Block 467, Lot 104, Davidson Avenue, is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public on this item only.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no public comment.
Moved
Seconded.
and seconded. All in favor of closing to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are closed to the public. Do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So basically, this is an item, I'm sorry, and this is, conservation easement is an area of land that basically the owner is saying they are agreeing to, they will not build upon, often protects river corridors or stream corridors. This is for the hotel on Davidson Avenue. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Okay, sounds like that passes. So an ordinance on first reading, ordinance 4306-19, an ordinance canceling balances of certain open space trust fund ordinances of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, in the amount of $441,880.53 of the General Capital Fund. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, November 26, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So I see this as mainly paperwork. We have a number of bonds, open space, that are money allocated in the Open Space Trust Fund for certain items to be performed. And either they weren't performed or money was left over. And this is kind of bookkeeping to return that money to the general fund. And we need to do this every once in a while.
So I see the councilman's hand up at the other end of the dais here, and he sent me an email. So if I may just explain just some of the functions of finance as it relates to this.
Okay.
So when we purchase a piece of property, which is what all of these ordinances were for, either purchasing property or development rights, we move the money from the Open Space Trust to the General Capital Fund, because that from there is where it is paid. And it is a function of finance to move that money back and forth for accounting purposes. So that's why both funds are mentioned in this ordinance, because in some cases, the money currently is in the general fund, and for others, it's still in the Open Space Trust Fund, because it had yet to be moved from the Open Space Trust Fund to the General Capital Fund. So that's why it looks like both things are mentioned. The reality is if the ordinance stated that the payment was being made from the Open Space Trust Fund to the Open Space Trust Fund, the money will go back. If the money had yet to be moved, it's already there, so it doesn't need to be moved back. So that's why it sounds confusing, but in reality, all of these were open space acquisition ordinances, so all of that money will either be returned in real form from general capital to open space, or it'll just be on paper because it never was moved. So it's all open space money. It will remain open space money.
I just didn't want anybody possibly to get the impression that money was being, so to speak, permanently moved out of open space, paid for by the open space tax, and into the general fund.
Right.
If you assure me that it all gets back to open space eventually, that's fine. That's all I want to be sure of.
By law, it must, and it does.
Okay.
Anything else? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
We are now on to item number 14, the consent agenda resolutions. Item A through AA, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item, ask about an item? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. I would like to point out item X, a resolution calling for a study commission to review the Open Public Records Act. This was something that our clerk suggested, and I wonder if you have anything to say in particular about it.
In the 17 years that Oprah has been there, not that Oprah is a bad thing, because it is not. It's, you know, it is great to be transparent, but over the last 17 years, there have been things that need to be improved, such as companies that Oprah us for their discovery and such. So the State Municipal Clerks Association, the League of Municipalities, and other legislatures are just asking for it to be reviewed to improve it. And we do approximately 1,400 Oprah requests a year, which don't include the ones that go directly to the police department. So we do thousands here.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, not that I want to highlight the project, but for item W, which is for a TWA, Treatment Works application for our house, I do want to highlight that the last authority meeting, it was identified that what we're going to start doing is planning on identifying any last pockets of neighborhoods that don't have sewer service and start trying to do a long-term plan to see if we can try to eliminate it. Or at least study them to see if it's funding. This is, unfortunately, it will not help the resident in this case, but this is one area that we've identified. To try to bring sewer service into the area. They are within the service area, it's just that there's no connection anywhere near there. So I strongly encourage that we help this resident out so that they have some place to handle their system, but again, the authority has identified this and we'll start looking for long-term plans for this. Similar situations.
Anyone else?
Okay, Mayor, I would like to go back to X.
Okay.
One that there's calling for the study. For me, I think that is a very important area that we need to look into. Updating, studying it and reviewing it and updating it, I think that will be very, very helpful. For more than 17 years, it has been the same, no change. And things are moving, life is moving. So I think we need to have an update of the study.
Okay, anyone else? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
There's no old business. We've shut off all
Yes,
nominations.
so that I don't have to do that spreadsheet 15 times between now and December.
Okay,
Smart move.
he's in charge. We're now on to executive session then. The following resolution is presented to Township Council for consideration. Resolution 19-485, authorize executive session, potential open space land acquisition. Do we have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of going into executive session, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. At this time, the Township Council will adjourn to the executive session to discuss the authorized executive session as mentioned above. No other actions will be taken by the Township Council at the conclusion of the executive session. Therefore, the recording of this meeting will now end. Be well, Franklin.